we're going to make big radical changes. I've talked to President Trump and all my colleagues about what that first 100 days looks like, and you will see proof right out of the gate.
We're starting today with MAGA Mike Johnson, the Republican Speaker of the House, and the reminder that when extremists tell us we're going to do extreme things, we should believe them. It's dangerous and irresponsible to assume the extremists promising extreme things can just be ignored because they're not really going to do them. What am I talking about? Project 2025. There's about 3 layers to this story. And I don't know, just for kicks, let's go through the layers step by step the way that I like to do. There is the content of Project 2025, which is, again, this Heritage Foundation package of ideas meant to really weaponize the bureaucracies of the United States against the left and for authoritarian purposes. Trump is all in on it. And now MAGA Mike is telling us he's all in on it as well. The second part of it is the danger, as I suggest, of those who say, we don't have to worry about this. And part 3, of course, is that MAGA Mike may be long gone from Speaker of the House by the time Trump is inaugurated in January, if indeed he will be. And we'll talk about that in a moment. So here is MAGA Mike calling into the Charlie Kirk show on Real America's Voice. And he's telling us in those first 100 days of Trump, we are going to make some aggressive, radical changes. We know, Mike, we've seen the list, but here he is saying it.
I think we can have a larger, sizable majority, not 25 or 30 seats anymore because of gerrymandering and redistricting, but we can have a bigger majority. You get that, you get the Senate. We're going to make big radical changes. I've talked to President Trump and all my colleagues about what that first 100 days looks like, and you will see proof right out of the gates. I mean, aggressive changes to the regulatory state, the deep state, the bureaucracy that's turned on the people and weaponized against them, to the budgeting and spending process. I think we can have.
So there it is. He's admitting it. Now, what is he referring to? This is all coded language or not so coded language. We know the language by now from the 2022 Heritage Foundation Project 2025 framework, with over 100 partners that have signed on to this in addition to the Heritage Foundation. And it wants to do a bunch of things, all of which should scare the whatever out of us. They want to recruit tens of thousands of, it's not just conservatives. If you ask them, they might say, well, we want conservatism. What they want is lapdog MAGA radicals to replace regular old civil workers and take, I've explained before, when a new president comes in, they bring their Secretary of State. They bring their Secretary of Education. Okay. But at the lower levels at so many of these departments, these are career bureaucrats. They may have private political lives where they vote, but their roles are not explicitly nor implicitly political. They mostly take their job and the apolitical nature very seriously. I've known folks who work in embassies, for example. Yeah, they have a preference politically in many cases, but they take very seriously that these are not political roles in which they are serving. Okay, the president picks the ambassador, but I am just a cog in the system, or whatever the case may be. They want to replace these career bureaucrats who are apolitical with radical MAGA extremists who will restructure all of these departments in the image of MAGA. They want to restructure the executive branch as well under what they call unitary executive theory, which basically means give the president way more power. If we learned anything under Trump, it's maybe these right wingers are right that the president shouldn't have that much power when we look at what Trump did. They will slash DOJ funding. They want to dismantle the FBI. They want to gut environmental regulations to favor fossil fuel production, which we should be doing away with. They want to get rid of endless departments, depending on which day you ask them. Education definitely goes. Commerce, I think, definitely goes. The IRS, what do they want to do with it? They want to invoke the Insurrection Act for domestic military deployment for law enforcement purposes. Remember, you can't use the military for domestic law enforcement unless you invoke the Insurrection Act. We've talked about that. They will blatantly direct the DOJ to target their political adversaries. And of course, in general, this is a major move to autocracy. So 3 layers. What MAGA Mike is talking about is horrible. Number 2, when people hear this and they go, we don't have to worry about that. I'm going to call it down the middle. I think even if Trump wins, there will be an election in 2028. It may be under duress. It may be in circumstances that are very ugly and dangerous, but I do think there is going to be an election in 2028, even if Trump wins and does terrible things. But I do believe that we have to understand when they say, hey, we're radical extremists, we have a list of radical extremist things we plan to do, and it is funded and organized by the Heritage Foundation. We've got to take it seriously. And then lastly, MAGA Mike says, in our first 100 days with Trump as president, there are already many Republicans starting to turn on MAGA Mike Johnson, including Marjorie Taylor Greene. MAGA Mike Johnson might not even make it to January, never mind beyond, if Trump were to get reelected. So let's take them at their word for what they're trying to do. It is time to start thinking like voters and to make sure that kids understand the importance of voting, how it works, registering, ballot initiatives, because so many kids just have no idea. That's why I wrote the new children's book, Think Like a Voter. I can think of no better time and no more important group of folks to try to reach. The book is now available at davidpakman.com/book, where, by the way, you can get the first 2 books in the series as well. Think Like a Detective and Think Like a Scientist. Really important stuff. Donate them to local libraries, classrooms, read them with the kids. davidpakman.com/book.